this morning. Glad you're here. This hot topic was designed to keep us up to date on what's going on in, um, well, I guess not exactly legislative hall, but in the legislature and the bills that the league is supporting and passionate about. So, thank you to all the portfolio chairs for participating this morning and explaining to the rest of us what's going on. I just want to give you a heads up about some things coming up. Um, this Saturday is the LWVDE convention. So if you haven't registered to participate or be a delegate there, you can do that. I think Kira's going to put the link for that in the chat. And also on Saturday, the Newcastle County League is opening its fundraising auction, virtual auction. And Kara can put that site in the chat as well, so you all can copy that. That auction is a fundraiser for Newcastle County, and you can keep going into that because things will be added over the next month, and you can bid and check to see where your bid stands and all of that. So we hope you'll participate in that as well. So I will turn it over now to Linda to start the program.
Thank you, Marge. I am the chairperson right now of the Advocacy Corps, which is the group that monitors what's going on in the General Assembly for the League of Women Voters. We are very busy. We have a whole host of bills to share with you today on a number of different topic areas. If you had a chance to look at the attachment that we sent out with the announcement the other day. We're hoping too that this session will motivate some of you perhaps to join the Advocacy Corps. We're always looking for more League members to help us to monitor all the bills that we are indeed following, because there's a lot of work for everyone to do. You can find information on the State League's website about the Advocacy Corps, and there's a link there to get more information about it. We're going to start off with the social policy. Oh, I did want to mention too, we are recording this program so that we can share it later on the state website. Okay? So if you,
I told you could do it. I would make the notes.
Everybody needs. We muted everyone to avoid background noise. And when our speakers are up, we would, of course, ask them to unmute themselves. So I think I started to say we're recording this event, and if you are uncomfortable with your picture or anything you might say or write in the chat box, and you should mute yourself, which you'll stay muted, and put your video on mute, I guess, stop your video so that your picture is not shown. We're going to start off with the social policy portfolio, which is the one that I am chairing. And we're going to try to use screen share here. There we go. Social policy is the category where we deal with bills that address the desire to get out of poverty, to increase self-sufficiency of individuals, also bills that promote equal rights for everyone. The first bill we have on our list is the one that is concerned with increasing the minimum wage. The minimum wage right now is $9.25, and this bill would bring it up every year about $1 until it reaches $15 an hour. This bill is one that is particularly designed to help people achieve self-sufficiency and hopefully move out of poverty. As you can see, it has passed the Senate and it is now in the House Appropriations Committee. The next bill on our list is Paid Family and Medical Leave, which is SB 1. This is a new program, a very ambitious program that will offer paid family and medical leave both to workers in the public sector and in the private sector. It's designed to be self-funded all employees will have a small percentage of their wage withheld, just like other withholdings in the paycheck from each worker, as well as the employer. There will be equal contributions from the employee and the employer to build up a fund so that those in need can obtain paid leave when the need arises. And people will be eligible for up to 12 weeks of paid leave under this program. It would help them with their own serious illness if they have to take time off, if they're a caregiver for someone in their family who is seriously ill. It would give them time off to bond with a new child. Either the man or the woman, mother or the father, will be able to take that leave. It's a very wide area of things that the participants can take leave for, such as if a family member is going into military deployment, they can take time off to make all the arrangements necessary for that. And also, if they have a family member who is a victim of domestic violence, they can take time off for that. So it's a very interesting program, a very detailed program, and it will be coming up for hearings soon. So watch for that. The next one in this category is HB 198, which mandates curricula addressing Black history all through the entire public school grades, from grades kindergarten to grade 12. And the goal there is to interfold information, truth about the Black American experience into all aspects of the public school curriculum, such as English, history, even science, where it can be interjected. This apparently is necessary. The schools are having to step in here because families, parents have not been providing their children with the information clearly that they need in order to understand what the Black experience in America has been. And the hope is, of course, that this will help to address systemic racism. There are a couple of other bills in this category that have already passed the legislature. One is a constitutional amendment, as you can see, that adds race, color, and country of origin to the protections in our Equal Rights Clause. And another bill, very interesting, bans discrimination against traits associated with ethnic or racial groups, such as the hairstyles of Black Americans. Apparently, many Black Americans were treated very badly in school or in their workplace if they were wearing the hairstyles that are traditional for that population. I didn't mention before that we are asking that you put your questions into the chat box, and we will leave time after each presentation for questions, for a few questions, and then save the rest of them for the end of this session as we have time. Kara, do we have any questions on this one? All right. Then the next category that we want to deal with is education, and Penny Diner is going to walk us through that set of bills.
Okay. We're going to start with something called opportunity funding. And this was established as a one-time executive order to add additional sources of funding to support the increased needs of students living in low-income families and English language learners. This was especially in response to the provision of the education equity lawsuit. Senate Bill 56 codifies the opportunity funding to make it ongoing. In other words, it will not stop after the 3 years that Governor Carney used for this, but it will be a permanent change, and it's currently on the governor's desk. House Bill 86, again, all of these bills are really related to the education equity lawsuit.
Penny, I hate to interrupt, but can you bring up the bills? Because we're not seeing them.
You're not seeing my page? I'm sharing it.
We're just seeing a Google Docs, like a menu bar.
Okay. Thank you for telling me that, because that is not what I wanted to share.
Okay.
It's not all that informative.
How about
Okay.
now? What do you see?
It doesn't show the actual table. It just shows the names.
Huh.
There's education, health, money, natural resources, I guess.
Okay. Let me see if I could do it a different way. See, this is why it's good. So we are on education. Okay. And we did practice.
There we go. Now we got it.
We've got it now. And I just talked about Senate Bill 56. What House Bill 86 does is that it increases funding for children in kindergarten through grade 3 to be eligible for basic educational service, special educational services. Children from grades 4 to 12 have been eligible for many years. And for some reason, the IDEA did not include children grades kindergarten to 3rd grade. And it may be that at that point in time, we had a rule that said children had to be 2 years behind to get special education services. Now we have better ways of testing children and deciding whether or not these are services they need before they get 2 years behind. It provides the services by specialists, but also by reducing the unit size from about 16 students to 8 students. And I'm going to skip down to House Bill 144, because what this does is it adds preschool, pre-kindergarten to the basic special education services. And this begins in 2022. There was a point in time where it could begin in 2024, and the House really decided that it was important that this not be delayed that long. House Bill 100 defines mental health services as prevention, response, and coordination services. It will provide funding for children in grades kindergarten to 5th grade with school counselors, school social workers, or licensed clinical social workers for each 250 children, and a full-time school psychologist for every 700 children. I guess I always think I teach children and not students, so I have a trouble with students. But all of these bills, and there are many, many more coming, relate to increasing in a permanent way how the quality of education with both equality and equity in Delaware's schools.
Okay. Kira, were there any questions on that presentation?
Nope.
All right. Well,
we're not seeing the bill. We're not seeing it.
oh dear. All right. Well, moving right along. And so maybe we'll have more questions at the end. The next category we're going to take up is redistricting. Sandy Spence is going to talk to us about that. Sandy, can you share your screen, or does Kira need to do it? We have Sandy who needs to unmute herself.
I don't know. I saw that one this morning. I don't know if I have it. Let me just check. I do have it.
We don't.
Okay,
There
here
we
I
have.
am.
Here
I'm
she is.
here and I'm going to put my video on so you can see me.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's one bill that we're following, and it's SB 27. It was introduced in January. There was a hearing where it was scheduled, but it was postponed at that time and hasn't come up yet. This bill eliminates the original districts that were set up in the Constitution and became unconstitutional in the 60s when the Supreme Court said that there had to be equal votes in legislative districts. So this bill has been unconstitutional for many years, and it's about time. So they're getting rid of that and turning over the decision making on how redistricting will occur to the legislature. That's basically all it does. we had tried to get them to consider additional criteria, including communities of interest, and also to set up an independent commission, but they failed. They aren't willing to do that. So we were stuck with what we have, and hopefully H1 and S1 in the Congress will pass, and then we'll be able to have, and then that will require an independent commission and consideration of communities of interest. And that's about it for us.
Okay, we do have, if possible, can you share the chance of passing, opposition, etc., actions we should take? So on redistricting, what are the chances of a bill passing, and what action should the league members take to get the bill passed?
Well, this is the first leg of a constitutional amendment, so we don't have to get it passed until sometime next year, before June 30 of next year, because constitutional amendments have to be approved by 2 separate legislatures, after an election. So we have plenty of time on this, so there's no urgency at all about it. But what I would recommend is that you join our Fair Maps project, because we are working on Fair Maps for this redistricting process that is happening this year. And this bill would only affect the next one 10 years from now. So join our Fair Maps project, and I'm sure Kara will be happy to put a link on the chat that tells you how to do that. We need your help now to get Fair Maps this year, not wait for 10 more years.
Very good. Any other questions, Kira? All right. Our next
Yeah.
category is criminal justice, and Marjorie Green is going to walk us through those bills. There we go.
Thank you, and I'm happy to
Alright.
do so. Let me, Kara, I'm going to ask you to please show,
And
yeah.
the screen, yeah. Now that I know the screen isn't sharing the correct way. Oh, okay, I got it. Let me go open it up.
While you're doing that,
Oh, now the Richard, here we go.
many of you may
I'm
have
not seeing my own screen.
It's not show. There we go.
there it goes.
Yes.
You see it?
Yes. Scroll it down a little bit so that we can, yes, okay. Let's take SB 111 and 112. And we're talking about expungement. What we mean by this is that if someone has been convicted of a crime of any kind, when they apply for housing or jobs, they need to disclose this, and this can automatically shut down their access to full participation in society. Currently, over 60,000 Delawareans are eligible for expungement of previous convictions, but the current process is so burdensome that most eligible people don't know quite how to proceed. So what SB 111 would do is institute an automatic clean slate process that requires the State Bureau of Identification to expunge eligible cases on a monthly basis. This would seal a record, allowing individuals who have paid their debt to society to access employment, housing, education, and opportunity. as Jenny Roberts, professor at American University College of Law, says, it hurts communities if their citizens cannot be productively employed or aren't part of the tax base. So there's certainly an economic incentive for allowing people to move beyond their criminal record. In Indiana, for example, prosecutor Terry Curry says, if our goal is to have individuals not reoffend, then in our mind, it's appropriate to remove obstacles that are going to inhibit their ability to become productive members of our society. SB 112 would expand eligibility for mandatory expungement so that all cases eligible for adult expungement are eligible for juvenile expungement. It also makes eligible for expungement cases of underage consumption of alcohol or marijuana possession. That's essentially it. Once someone has served time, 5 years, if a person has no subsequent convictions, their record would be expunged. Okay, and now the other, many of you, I'm going to talk about Senate Substitute 1 for SB 3. And Mayor Puzicki of Wilmington authored an editorial published in the Delaware News Journal this past Sunday, decrying gun violence in the city. Last year, 168 people were shot, a 50% increase over 2019. He feels, and law enforcement professionals agree, that a proliferation of firearms is a major contributing factor in the rising level of gun violence. SS1 offers a public safety bill to protect the well-being of all of our citizens and law enforcement officers by requiring baseline qualifications for owning a handgun. The bill would require people who want to buy a gun to complete a handgun training and safety course. Once the course is completed, a buyer would need to submit an application to the Delaware Department of Safety and Homeland Security, which would fingerprint them and confirm that they are legally permitted to own a gun. Once this is done, they get a purchase card, which they must show in order to buy a handgun. The card expires after 6 months and the process can be repeated. A similar permit law passed in Connecticut in 1995 has been associated with a 40% reduction in that state's firearm homicide rate and a 33% decrease in its firearm suicide rate. The League, plus 74% of Delawareans support this policy. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. We do have some questions.
Okay.
So the first one, is the League taking an official position on each of these bills?
Yes, the League has taken a position in support of SS1 and also on both SB 111 and 112 in support, and along with a number of other organizations like the ACLU of Delaware.
Wonderful. Okay, the next question is, will they notify the persons when their information is expunged?
You know, I don't know that. I was not able to see that in any of the summary, and it occurred to me that there's no guarantee that that's happening, or at least I was not aware. I will check on that.
Me too. I wrote it down because I was like, I'm not sure either. And our last question is, what are the chances of passing and being signed? Oh, wait, no. What kind of guns are included in handgun?
I don't know that either. What kind of? I do know that law enforcement is in support of this because it. But what I worry about is this relates to official gun sales, gun shops, but if it has no bearing, unfortunately, if someone buys a gun and then sells it, that can still go on, or if guns are stolen. So it's not a cure-all, but it is a precaution.
Okay, I think we should move on to the next category. We can come back to this one at the end if we have time. And I just want to just comment on the general question of support. I think it's pretty certain that when we present these bills, we do support them. The League does support them unless we clearly make it clear that we are in opposition to the particular bill. But as we go along, we'll try to make that clearer than we have in the past. In the prior presentation, certainly all the ones on social policy we are supporting. I'd like to move now to natural resources, and Charlie Garlow is going to walk us through those bills.
Thank you, Linda. This is Charlie Garlow down here in Rehoboth Beach, and I hope we've got slides up there with Kira's help. Thank you, Kira.
Tell me if you see them.
We have about 7 bills I was going to discuss and don't want to take up too much time, but I thought I'd start off with the third one on this chart, SB 22, since it's passed by both houses.
We're not seeing it, Kira. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there you go. SB 22 is the third one down there. It's already been passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. So we got a win there on invasive species bill, which basically says you're not allowed to sell invasive species through your garden shop or landscaping service or anything like that. So that's good. All the other bills are still in process, starting at the top, HB 200, Clean Water Planning and Funding. That bill has been in process for several sessions, big rallies held in Dover. HB 200, of course, you can see is H2O, so that's why it's clean water. Very clever. Passed the House, now in the Senate Environment Committee. Everybody's thinking thumbs up on this one. Good chance of this passing. The Senate, the environmental bills generally this year are looking very good. Senate Environment Committee Chairperson Stephanie Hansen is shepherding through a number of terrific bills, and this is one of them. Second one down the line there is the balloon release bill. We testified on the SB 24 last year. It didn't get through because we ran out of time, COVID-19, etc. But we're hopeful that this one also will pass. It's already gone through the Senate. It's awaiting floor action in the House after having come out of the House committee.
Charlie, does that mean you can't release balloons?
That's correct. Excuse me. Balloon release bill says if you do release a balloon, it is considered littering and therefore illegal. So helium balloons is what we're looking at here. Ones that you just blow up with your breath and your air don't have the same ability to rise up in the air, float out to sea, and be swallowed by sea turtles and other sea mammals. So that's what that's all about. The next bill down the line there is HB 8 with HA2. Not exactly sure quite the A part what it means, but it's about PFOAs, perfluorocarbons, and they are like forever chemicals. They don't ever degrade and thus become a vicious water pollutant. It has passed the House, now in the Senate Environment Committee. We're hopeful that that will get out of the Senate as well and hopefully pass the entire Senate. It would require DNREC to issue some regulations on what is the level of PFOAs and that would be acceptable. There are no federal regulations on this yet, so that'll put Delaware ahead of the national government on regulating and cutting down on the PFOAs. This is HB 22 is the next one that we have on our chart there, and it's about right to repair. Now, a lot of people say, well, why is that have anything to do with the environment or natural resources? The idea is that if more shops or more individuals have the tools and the instruction booklets and the schematics to be able to repair their own gear, whether it's a Game Boy or a laptop or a cell phone or whatever else, then chances are it won't be thrown in the landfill quite so quickly. And it'll be able to be lasting longer. And that way we won't have so much toxic waste in our landfills, especially the batteries in these Game Boys and cell phones and other sorts of equipment. Seems like everything these days is electronic or has a computer chip in it, and therefore probably has a battery in it. And it's a big pollutant when it comes to things thrown in the landfill and not properly kept out of the environment the rest of us breathe and drink, etc. And as you can see, it's gotten out of the committee, but not passed the House yet, and no word yet on the Senate side. Next one is HB 52, zooming right along here. This is about donated food. Now, there are a number of organizations that accept food that are in cans and that sort of thing. A lot of times there are not so many places that will accept donated food from restaurants or others that might have, a food that's going to go bad, that's got an expiration date on the gallon of milk or whatever, and they will donate it to a food bank. And this talks about the liability for donated food. Now, there's already federal law talking about no liability if you donate some food, but there are some gaps in the federal law, and this HB 52 here in Delaware would help to fill them. For example, hunters might have a deer that they shot and they want to donate the meat to a food bank or a food soup kitchen. This would protect them from liability for anything that they're trying to do as a good Samaritan. And that again would help avoid these foods going to the landfill. And there's the status there is talking about the House Health and Human Development Committee. It's in the committee, has not yet made any progress. So we're hoping that something will happen there. HB 134 is the next one. This would be just recently introduced, so we haven't really had a chance to do much organizing around it or testifying or anything like that. It would ban food establishments, restaurants mostly, from providing single-use plastic items like plastic straws, styrofoam cups, styrofoam clamshells, coffee stirrers. There's just a host of single-use, throw-it-away plastic items that are given away by restaurants and others, and they too frequently get into our water and into our ocean and cause lots of harm for wildlife, but they're also unsightly, and we're trying to ban them to get rid of too much plastic we have in our environment, especially in our waters. And as you can see there, it's in the Senate Environment Committee, Energy and Environment Committee, again, headed by Senator Hansen. And we're hoping that that will make some progress. It's building, if you will, on last year's ban of plastic throwaway, flyaway bags at major stores like grocery stores and Kmart's and Walmart's and things like that. But this would take the next step in helping to make Delaware plastic free. So that's the end of the bills that we're working on. We welcome anybody who'd like to work with the Environment Natural Resources Committee of the League of Women Voters to contact me and or Coralie Pride, a longtime devoted servant to the environment here in the League of Women Voters. I'm so proud to follow in her footsteps. She's still active with our committee, but you can contact either one of us. Linda, back to you.
And questions. Yeah, Kira, were there some questions?
Yes, thank you, Charlie. First, I'd like to thank Valerie George for putting up a list of invasive species found in Delaware. That will help everyone. Charlie, will lanterns be prohibited with the balloon bill? The paper lanterns that people light up and let off in the air?
Yes, that's also prohibited because those paper lanterns flying up in the air frequently will blow out over the ocean, come down and create a hazard. It can also create a fire hazard. If it comes down the middle of a dry, grassy field, there's that hazard as well. So
Okay.
they are considered, outside my reading of this bill, they're considered the same sort of hazard and would be banned, or as they would be considered to be litter and therefore banned.
Okay. And the last
Other
question,
questions?
yes, the last question is on the styrofoam bill. Would it also apply to private kitchens like the ones continuing care communities? The yeah.
That's a good question. And if it's not in there, it might be a good idea to have it in there. On the other hand, maybe there's the chances of that styrofoam getting out into the environment because it's in an enclosed senior citizen center or something is not as great. So I just don't know the answer on that, but that's a good point. Perhaps we can bring it up if this comes to a hearing. We'll find out.
Yeah. So, well, also like hospitals, I guess that would be also with continuing care. Like hospitals use a lot of styrofoam.
Yes, they do. And we're hoping that they will do as other restaurants and other establishments and find non-plastic alternatives such as cardboard.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. So let's move next to government and finance legislation, and that brings Jack Young to the fore. Jack, need to unmute.
If I can unmute, and then we'll see if
I don't have that one.
I can share the screen. Well, it's not letting me share what I want to share with you. It's not letting me share at all.
Kara, do you have his?
No, I don't.
Oh dear. Well,
And
Jack, you can just walk us through it.
I'll walk you through it, and it's not as exciting as the predecessors, but thank you, Linda. And again, thank you for your leadership of the Advocacy Corps. I think you're doing a fabulous job. For government and finance tax, there are several bills that we are following. The first is HB 105.
How do we get rid of, excuse me, Kara, we've got
He has to
Jack.
stop sharing.
Jack, you need to stop sharing. Something strange is on our screen.
Well, see what we can do here. Now, technology is the.
There we go. Now we're good.
Did we lose Jack?
Okay. Did we lose Jack? And we lost his screen altogether. Oh no.
We lost Jack.
Oh dear.
I don't know what.
Maybe we should move to another.
Okay, so let's
Let's move to the next one,
Yeah,
and we'll get
until
Jack
we get him
back when he rejoins. I guess we lost his screen and we lost him. That brings us to climate change. So that means we need Peggy to take front and center.
Get myself geared here to share. Well, I've got land use and transportation queued up first. So do you mind if I do that one first?
No, that's fine.
Okay. And first, we're going to look at the electric bike bill, HB 19. I've got a little speech here. Let me find my speech. Since electric bikes are a pretty new phenomenon, we don't have any rules in Delaware for them. So this bill not only defines the 3 classes you see here in the chart, but it also allows a path or trail administrator to say which classes, if any, of these bikes is permitted without going through a lengthy regulatory process. So the league supports this method of transportation because it has the potential to take cars off the road and thereby avoid the carbon emissions of a car. An e-bike is responsible for about 1/10 of the carbon emissions of a car, including the emissions caused in the manufacture. So this bill passed in the House is now in the Senate committee. This charging station bill is Senate Bill 21. And this allows the state to charge for electricity at its automobile electric charging stations. The state currently provides that service free. Charging a fee would not only provide income for maintenance of the stations, but it would also provide a more even playing field with private sellers of electricity for cars. The league supports electric vehicle use, as you might guess, and the bill is on the Senate ready list, ready to be voted upon by the whole Senate before it goes on to the House committee for discussion. It doesn't appear to be a real controversial bill. The complete community enterprise district amending bill is HB 18, and it has been passed by the House, and the Senate is ready for the governor's signature. It's kind of a throwaway, you might think, but I'm going to take the liberty of using my pulpit here to express huge support for the concepts in this bill. Of course, it's just a bill to tweak the original bill, which was passed in 2016. In the original bill, DelDOT and local communities were to join forces to work out bikeable, walkable communities around transit, with a commitment from DelDOT to prioritize the transportation infrastructure that would be involved. Soon after the bill passed in Dover in 2016, the community of Newport decided to implement the bill, but they ran into trouble because the bill was a little bit too restrictive for their situation. So that's where this tweaking bill comes in. And one of the concepts that is important here, that in order to have decent transit, you need a density of about 16 dwelling units per acre. The original law, as well as this tweaking bill, both underscore that the area must be zoned in order to maximize transit, walking, and biking. This seems like an innocuous rule or requirement, but it's incredibly important in principle, since for years and years, we've worked on the assumption that zoning is for the purpose of maximizing vehicle flow, not people flow. We forget the walking, biking, and transit thing. Cars will poke along at speeds no greater than 25 miles per hour in one of these complete community enterprise districts or CCEDs. We will have relatively dense housing, probably with a lot of multifamily housing in apartments. But the sidewalks will be full of people, walking people. Bike lanes will get bicyclists to their destinations. Transit will be available. Sidewalks will offer seating for outdoor dining. It will be people-oriented, and we will be spared beaucoup carbon dioxide emissions. That's big and that's important. There's a large body of research that says switching to electric cars alone will not save us, although we love electric cars. Charlie knows we love electric cars. And we need to actually cut down on driving, and CCEDs will do that. From 1990 to 2017, fuel efficiency has improved by 18%, yet emissions have increased by 22%. Now, how could that be? Because vehicle miles traveled has increased by 60%. Reed Ewing and his associates say that compact development reduces VMT by 20 to 40%. If it makes sense, get your community together and work out a CCED. So there, you know, density is not a 4-letter word. You count them. So let's move on now. And to climate change and energy portfolio. The community solar bill is one that comes up first, and it will be SB2, though it has not yet been filed. This is where an entrepreneur can get together a bunch of people who either don't own their own roofs, or the roofs are in the shade, or they want to save money, or they want to do something for the environment. There's a provision in the bill that 15% of the subscribers have to be low income. Currently, you could carry out a community solar project like this, similar to this, but the limit would be 2 megawatts. The whole project could only be 2 megawatts. The earlier bill asked for 5 megawatt max, and they lowered it to 4 megawatts. And I think that's a terrible shame, because if you have more megawatts, you get cheaper solar. So I hope that they will be able to revise it and put that extra megawatt in there. We're going to look at the renewable portfolio standard bill, SB 33. This did pass. We were vocal supporters of this bill. We're delighted that it passed as is. Unfortunately, it provides only 40. It provides for our renewable electricity to be only 40% of the whole, and that's Delmarva electricity, because that's the one that's governed by the Public Service Commission. And for for the Delaware Municipal Electric Corporation, Delaware Electric Cooperatives, it's voluntary. But we were hoping, the league voted actually to have 50%, and Sierra Club has been directing the fight on this RPS bill, and they say that next year they will work on 50%. And notice down here at the bottom of the bill, this is really important. New Jersey and Maryland have in their RPS 50% by 2030. That's coming right up. Virginia has an RPS of 100% by 2050. DC has 100% by 2032. Now my favorite here is the resolution we didn't have to support. And you're going to think it's weird that I'm bringing this up, but how's my time here?
A couple of more minutes, but we want to kind of wrap up.
Uh-oh, I was hoping to take 7 minutes for this. That's going to be too much, huh?
You have already went through 7 minutes.
Well, I have 2 portfolios though.
Okay, so we don't have any questions. So if you want to go, just finish up and go through this slide.
Okay, well, I'll try to make this fast. The reason I'm going to talk about it when we don't even have a bill is that it's going to come up, and we're going to ask, it's going to come up this next fall, and there will be a bill. And we will want all your very, very vigorous support. And I hope that you enjoy this picture of offshore wind off of Bethany Beach. This is a, oh, what do you call it? It's a fabrication. It's what they think that an offshore wind project will look like. And it's not nearly the towering monstrosities you would think, is it? So that's good. An offshore wind project could provide 28% of Delaware's electricity. And the price is right now, Massachusetts has 2 contracts. One is for 6.5 cents a megawatt. Did I say megawatt hour? Is that it? Oh, I get those mixed up. Sorry, guys. And one is for 5.8 cents. The current Delmarva price is about 7.1 cents. So you see, offshore wind is even cheaper than our fossil fuel wind is. And we have incredible possibility of saving lives because of the pollutants that come with carbon emissions. Carbon emissions aren't going to kill you, but all these other things will. This particulate matter, all these noxins and all that stuff will kill you at the rate of 9.5. We could, if we had an 800 megawatt project, we could spare 9.5 lives per year. We could save $69 million per year in health costs. Another issue, this might seem trivial to people who really understand offshore wind, but people always bring up the issue of birds. The Audubon Society website says wind energy can be a powerful factor in protecting the birds that we love. That's because the temperatures are ruining their hunting grounds, their places they go, and they're in a desperate situation. Wind turbines kill 140,000 to 500,000 birds per year. Outdoor cats kill 1.3 to 4 billion birds per year, just to put this into perspective.
Okay, Peggy, we need to wrap up. So you've covered, I think, the key points here of this very important issue. So why don't we see if there are any questions? And you can turn off your screen sharing now, but that was a lovely PowerPoint. Thank you very much for putting that together. It's beautiful.
Thank you. The only question we had was someone didn't see the picture. So I explained it's a bench in front of the beach and she saw that. So you don't see the turbines from the beach ground level. I think there's a whole thing about you have to be above ground level to see them. But let's move on. Linda?
Yes, Jack, we're going back to you. I'm sorry we lost you there for a bit. So now let's try government and finance again.
I'm so sorry I lost you too. Kara has the slides now. We can, if we can blow this up a little bit.
There we go.
So we have a couple of bills before us. One is HB 105, which is the appropriations expenditure part of the budget. We'll see that later in the season. Generally, appropriations are handled toward the very end of the June of the session. HB 109 will create a budget stabilization fund. For those of you who have been following the budget issues over the last couple of years, you will realize that 2 things have occurred. One, we have in our Constitution a provision for a budget reserve fund. We have actually never released any money from the budget reserve fund. And we also have a smoothing bill, both recommended by the Delaware Economic and Financial Advisory Council. What HB 109 would do is to create a budget stabilization fund within the Constitution. And this fund would be used both for reserves and for those rare occasions when we need to smooth out the budget. And when I say smooth out, generally what has happened in the past is we have years of fast and famine where our budget is impacted greatly, which causes a reduction in services. And then we have years where we see the feast, where we have good years. This would allow us to properly budget and fund state resources. Since it's a constitutional amendment, it will require a vote in 2 sessions. This would be the first leg of the 2 part of the constitutional process. The last bill on our government and finance agenda is HB 170, which has not only been submitted, but has been reported out of House administration and more likely than not will pass as it's on the ready list. What 170 does is provides municipalities, particularly the 3 counties in the city, to use the transfer tax funds that they receive for the reassessment that's required under the education equity settlement to reassess the property in each of the counties and city. A cost of reassessment for Sussex is approximately $9 million. That is, each piece of real estate within the county would be reassessed to its true value as required under the Constitution and under the court's decisions. Again, that has been reported out. It's on the ready list. This will actually aid in getting the reassessments done. Last, there is a potential that we will see shortly, a proposal from our state treasurer to enact an earn bill, which would allow small business employees to contribute to a Roth IRA type of fund. One of the things we know is that many employees of small businesses don't have the appropriate or advantageous use of retirement vehicles. This would provide that the state would set up the method for establishing those retirement funds. It would be automatic, why it's called an automatic Roth retirement plan. However, an employee could opt out and the employer is not required nor allowed to participate in the plan. This is an idea to try to incentivize particularly younger individuals in the workforce to begin to plan for their retirement. The benefits are to the individual and also to the state. So hopefully we will see a bill from the Office of the Treasurer sometime within the next fortnight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, do
Thank
we
you,
have any
Jackie. So,
questions?
Not
No
on
questions
government.
on that one? All right, then we'll move to our next category, which is money in politics. Chris Essay is going to walk us through that, and I am going to try to share the screen on that.
Hello, everybody. I have 2 bills to talk about regarding money in politics. Everybody hear me okay? I'm not on mute, am I? Okay. The first one is Senate Resolution 15. And this is a bill in which our legislature would be requesting from the US Congress a constitutional amendment that would allow the federal government and the state government to regulate money in politics. And it's the kind of bill that can turn over some of the adverse findings that we've had in Supreme Court rulings like Citizens United. So currently, this bill is had been laid on the table, as they say, in the Senate, which may mean that the bill has been killed for the year. So it's an important bill that the League has come out strongly in favor of, but it looks like it may not go anywhere this year. The other bill is House Bill 90, and it's a bill that allows a candidate to use the candidate funds to pay for childcare if the candidate is involved in an activity in which they need to have some kind of care for their children while they're involved in the election activity. And currently that bill has come out of the House Admin Committee, and it's now placed on the House Ready list for a vote. And that's it.
Any questions?
All right.
Quiet
Well,
crowd today.
moving right along. Yes. Now we are going to the health portfolio, and we have Joanne Hasse, who is going to talk to us about health-related bills. I think, Kira, you have her table to share.
We didn't forget elections, did we?
No, we're going to do that last.
Okay. Okay. Well, we followed a lot of healthcare bills, but the three that are really most interesting are the ones, and they're all three in the same sort of general category, and that is to try to improve the situation in Delaware as far as the shortage of primary care providers is. We are woefully short of primary care providers in all three counties, and they also are not paid very well. For a while, I don't know if it has changed at all, but I don't think so. For a while, some of the commercial insurers were paying less for a primary care visit than Medicare does, which is totally topsy-turvy from the way things have historically been. Generally, Medicare doesn't pay as much and commercial insurers pay more. In Delaware, it was the other way around. So we are losing primary care providers as they retire, and we are not replenishing them very well. So the House Bill 48, which was brought up a year ago under a different name, and they tried to create a student loan repayment program that was directed at retaining and recruiting primary care providers. And it would also be the money that the state would put in would have to be matched by money from insurers and matched by money from the institution that might hire them, say a federally qualified health center or a private practice. But we didn't have the money last year to do it, and it just sort of fell apart. So this has been introduced again. It's in appropriation, so we really can't do much of anything until we see what happens with the money bills. And Senate Bill 120 is a very large bill, and it's very complicated. It's about 10 pages long, and it's, as I said, very complicated, but it's basic. It came from the Primary Care Collaborative Project, which has the chairs of both the health committees in the House and Senate, as well as other people who have been working, including a lot of primary care doctors. And they would somewhat reorganize the committee, and they're pushing insurers and providers to go to what there's called value-based fee-for-service basis. If you have an MRI, they pay for that. But if you go to, it doesn't, what value-based is, does this improve the general health of the patient rather than each little test or whatever the doctor would choose to run maybe and get paid for. The price goes up, but you don't necessarily get better care. So this is to address that. another bill which sailed through the Senate, sort of to our surprise, but it so probably will not have any problem in the House. But it's SB 105, which would give pharmacists the ability to prescribe contraceptives. Right now, you have to have a prescription from a medical professional for the pharmacist to be able to dispense the contraceptive. This would cut out that layer and say that under a standing order from the Division of Public Health, that pharmacists throughout the state would have the ability to essentially prescribe contraceptives. A lot of this would be oral ones, but not necessarily. It might be injectable ones without you having to go to the doctor to a doctor or an advanced nurse practitioner to get started on this. We were supporting it. Basically, it was an access issue, but it was also mainly for us an access issue in that it enhanced the patient's ability to get care. And that's what a lot of our national position is based on, access. We were quite surprised that this is what most of the testimony that was given at the committee hearing in the Senate was based on, this expanding the ability of people to get this basic care and helping to alleviate the shortage of primary care doctors, or providers, I should say, because they're not all doctors. That's it.
Okay, Joanne, thank you. Kira, were there any questions on that presentation?
No.
Okay. All righty. Well, now we go to our grand finale, which is our voting and elections bills, which we kind of have to say is the, I don't know, the prime star at the top of the League of Women Voters program. So Jill Iskowitz is in charge of this, and she's put together a beautiful PowerPoint.
Hi, I'll be talking about voting bills. And the first thing to say about voting bills, like many states that you see, Delaware has a plethora of voting bills. It's the year of the voting bills. And unfortunately, also like many states, the support for voting bills is extremely partisan. And we haven't seen that in the past. So that's an unfortunate thing. The first bill, our most prominent bill, is HB 75. And HB 75 is a constitutional amendment to change the language in Delaware. We have very explicit language about absentee voting in our Constitution, which is very unusual. I don't think other states have this at all. And we need to remove it from the Constitution in order to have no excuse absentee voting and vote by mail. And to change the Constitution, there needs to be a 2/3 approval vote in 2 consecutive sessions. And last year, this bill passed in the House overwhelmingly with bipartisan support and eventually passed in the Senate. This year, due to the changes in the House, the bill needs support of 2 Republicans in the House. And it was on the agenda last week, but it was pulled due to lack of support from the Republicans. I heard that we had 1 Republican, but we did not have 2 Republicans. So that was unfortunate. And also just to let you know that 68% of the states have no excuse absentee voting or vote by mail. And Delaware, along with 13 southern states, are the only ones that have absentee voting for a specific reason. So we'll certainly work and continue to work hard to get this amendment. And I hope you notify your representatives, especially if they're Republican, to pass this important legislation. We have other current voting bills, and we have testified in support of these bills. The first one is same-day voter registration. It's a waiting committee hearing in the House. It allows voter registration up to including election day. And it has been, initially, it required a photo ID, but I just saw it was modified, so it no longer requires that. So that's a good thing. The next bill is HB 30. It moves the state primary to coincide with the presidential primary in the fourth Tuesday in April, and it's out of the committee in the House. And we support this because we saw during the last election, there's a small window between the primary and the actual general election. And there's really no time to have voter forums or get information from candidates. So it resulted in a lack of information from the electorate. And also this bill will hopefully improve the number of people who vote in the primary. And of course, if you have one set of primaries, it saves us money. The next bill is SB 5. It's an automatic voter registration at the DMV and other state agencies. Right now at the DMV, we have an opt-in program. So you have to opt in if you want to register. We're going to change that. So it's an opt-out. And also a good part of this bill, if you help with registering young voters, you don't have to pick your party until the first primary. And we've seen that some of the young voters don't know what party they want to select yet. This bill passed the Senate on party lines, and it's also out of committee in the House, and I saw it on the agenda for next week. The final bill allows all municipalities to leverage the Department of Elections voter registration system, so voters do not have to register twice. This is a very good bill. It's also one of the few bipartisan supported bills. It's out of committee in the House. The next slide features Republican proposed bills. They haven't been released yet. They have 2 resolutions and 3 bills. And we reviewed this in the advocacy committee, and we support the resolutions. The first one is just to establish a registered voter list improvement task force, which is bipartisan, and it includes the Department of Elections to clean up some of the issues on the voting list. So we thought this was a good resolution. The next one is to review best practices to improve the verification of absentee ballot signatures. Right now, the Department of Elections doesn't really have a good way to validate the signatures. So this bill would look at what other states do and maybe implement one of those processes. The last 3 we did not support. Reform voter ID standards. This bill calls for government issue photo ID, which we're not for at the League of Women Voters. We find that restricted. The next one is to reform the standards for absentee ballot requests. This also requests that you have a photo ID to do absentee ballots. And we know we've worked with hospitals and prisons and nursing homes, and I believe those individuals would not have a government issued photo ID. So we're certainly against this bill. And we also don't want to increase the penalties for voter fraud. We think this bill is just adding fuel to the fire that there's fraud in voting, which we saw from the last election that that certainly was not the case. So I do not know when these bills will be released. And then if you want to help out, our committee meets virtually on the first Tuesday of the month from 11 to 12:30. And also I chair the Vote 411 team. So if you're interested, please email me. The more the merrier. Anybody have any questions there?
Actually, yes, we do. And I think a few of us are sitting on the edge of our seat.
Uh-oh.
Who is the one Republican?
I don't know that. I do not know that. There's a meeting tonight. And if I find that out, I'll email you all, because I don't know if it's Mike Smith. Hopefully that it is, because he's my representative. So I don't know. I don't
Would
know.
you repeat the question? Some people may not know how to look at the chat box.
Oh, okay. Do we know who the one Republican is that would vote for the absentee amendment, and also the HB 75? Who is the one Republican that is in support of HB 75?
And the voting coalition group has targeted 4 Republicans: Ramon, Hensley, Shoup, and Smith. Those are the best chances. Okay. And I'm happy to say we now have 2/3 of majority in the Senate. So if we get it through the House, it's going to sail through the Senate.
Okay. Any other questions, Kira?
That's it.
Okay, well, as you can see, the Advocacy Corps is following a tremendous number of issues, and we do need help. If you want more information about the issues that we're following, you can go to our state, the League's state website, where we post the actual testimony that we have submitted on these various bills. There's a lot of them, and we haven't gotten them all up yet, but many of them are there now. So you can see what we have actually presented at the various committee hearings. We also have position papers there reflecting the stands that we have taken. So if you want to dig deeper into this, we encourage you to go to our website and explore all of that. If anyone has any last minute questions that you would like to put into the chat box, we can take a few minutes to do that. But at the same time, we have a little poll that we've developed. Now, in some sense, I hate to say it, but this has sort of seemed like almost amateur hour, as we have struggled with some of our technical issues. And we know we need to improve on that so that we can look more professional. But of course, our emphasis is on the content of the bills and not so much on this. But we'd like to have you answer a question for us, if I can put it up here.
No, it's up. It's up.
The question is up. I don't see it on my screen.
Because you're a host.
Oh, is that right? All right. Everybody can answer this question, hopefully, and we will know whether to move forward with another one of these sessions, which hopefully we can do more smoothly.
Almost.
This is the league, so everybody has to vote.
That's right.
We're waiting on 3 more people to vote. 2 more. Oh, one might be. And okay, it's majority would like to see this happen again. And we do record these meetings. So if you could not get on for some reason or are not interested to get on that morning, you can see them later on our website. Right, Linda?
That is correct. And I don't know, Marge, if you have any last minute announcements for the group?
No, just thank you for being here and for being interested and for following the politics in Delaware. So don't forget the state convention on Saturday. Make sure you get signed up for that, and the auction. So have some fun on the auction. The Newcastle County will not be doing a hot topic in June because we have our annual meeting in June. We are hoping to do one in July on the complete communities that you heard Peggy talking about. So thanks for being here today and have a great rest of your day and see you on Saturday.
Thank you, Marge. Thank you, Linda.